What's going on, guys? Welcome in the Vikings Now by Chat Sports. I am your host, Patrick Siepman. We got a ton of news and rumors that we're going to discuss on our live show today. We got 4 cuts that we are going to get out of this. News, rumors, they're flying off the shelves for the Minnesota Vikings, so we're going to break it all down. Thank you so much for everybody who's joining us so far. There's a ton of rumors around Kirk Cousins, Dalvin Tomlinson. Could both them actually be getting an extension? And then also, could the Vikings be drafting the Minnesota center, John Michael Schmitz? We're going to be talking about all that and more. But we let the audience build up. Let me know where you guys are watching from. Get in the chat and get active. Let me know where you guys are watching from right now. Watson season. We got one Packers fan in here saying, "Go Pack, go." That's just stuff you don't like to see right there. Let me know where you guys are watching from in the comments section. We got a ton we need to talk about today because there's a report from Alec Lewis out of the Athletic. He said the the best case scenario for the Vikings that they extend Kirk Cousins. I disagree, but we'll have to see. Let me know. Let's let the chat build up. Let me know where you guys are watching from. Caleb Kelly saying, "Woo, let's go Vikings. I'm from Minnesota." Watson season saying, "Utah, so snowy." Ooh, from Utah. That's interesting. I've always wanted to go to Park City, actually. That's one place I do want to. It's on my bucket list. Watson season also said, "I respect you guys, though." See, the thing is, Watson season, I don't respect Packers fans or the Packers franchise. So I disagree. Yeah, you can respect me. I don't respect you. But if you guys love the Vikes, spam skull in the comments section. Let's get the skulls going in the chat. My man Trace is in my ear making me laugh right now. Get the skulls going in the chat. I want to see it flooded in there. If you guys are big-time Vikings fans, let the chat build up. We're trying to push this out to a ton of other Vikings fans. Spam skull in the comments. We got Caleb Kelly typing skull. Holden's typing skull. Shout out to you guys who are joining us so far. And like the video while you guys are at it, too. Helps it push it out to more and more Vikings fans. Anthony Sebring, welcome. Haven't heard you in a while. These are new weekly live shows we're doing. I know you watched our watch party. We got a ton of news and rumors, just everything about the Vikings we're going to break down on today's live. He says, "Skull, what's good? Still salty about that check down in the playoffs, but Oklahoma here." Anthony, thank you so much for joining us. Yes, I am still salty about that check down as well. 4th and 8, throw it throw it 5 yards short of the sticks. Don't like to see it. Shout out to Justin. Shout out to my man, Jaden Berry. That's a real one. That's an OG from the Skull Side days. Shout out to Jaden. Mark Wheeler saying, "Skull Vikings. I'm originally from Minnesota, but I live in Boston now." Shout out to Mark. Shout out to Mark. Holden's in there. Watson saying, "Extend Kirk, Vikings, please." That actually brings us to the next question I want to ask you guys. Do you want to extend Kirk Cousins? I made this the pin poll on today, and right now it's sitting at 57% for no. Kind of expected that honestly to be more than that. I'm shocked there's more than 57% saying no to Kirk. Of course, Watson's season is typing his Y for your S's. Let me know. Type Y for your S, N for no if you guys want to extend Kirk Cousins. Again, there was a talk from Alec Lewis, and we'll get into this more later. Alec Lewis said the best case scenario for the Vikes is if they extend Kirk Cousins. I got a ton of more thoughts on that later that we will get into. Jaden Berry is saying N for no as well. I agree with you. Mark Wheeler saying Y for yes. I see both sides, and I'll definitely dive into both, but I'm definitely leaning towards no. Justin is saying N for not extending Kirk Cousins. Caleb says, "Got to throw the Jefferson, Thielen, or Osborne on 4th and 8, but a dump off is not a good decision." Yeah, that play. I got it locked in the back of my head. Oh, we'll talk about it. We'll talk about it. Trace just asked me. He said, are we going to go draft a quarterback? We'll get into that later. Don't worry. But that 4th and 8 play, it drives me nuts. KJ Osborne's running that deep cross route. You had a chance to throw it to him there. Thielen's one-on-one running a go route on the left side. And I understand Jefferson was double covered. But again, it's Justin Jefferson. You threw it to him on the 4th and 8 or 4th and 18 in Buffalo, and he went up and one-handed it. I would rather taken the chance there than obviously the infamous check down to TJ Hawkinson. Holden saying, yes, extend for a 1-year deal. We'll get into that a little more later, but I'm kind of leaning that as well. Viking Nation saying, no, I think they're drafting a quarterback this season or next season. I agree with you. Viking Nation saying, I think Hawkinson will be the 5th most paid tight end in the NFL. I hope he is. Aeon Dodon saying, Anthony Richardson, future QB. I'll tell you what, I've been watching a lot of Richardson highlights lately. Starting to slowly fall in love with him. Jaden saying, I don't hate Kirk. he just feels like Derek Carr, not bad, but not far enough, not good enough. Yeah, that's kind of where the spot with Kirk Cousins is how far can he actually take you? Because I think a lot of quarterbacks can actually win a Super Bowl in the NFL. We've seen guys like Nick Foles. We just saw like what the Niners did with Brock Purdy this last season. It just depends on the roster around him. If you can't build that complete roster because Kirk Cousins is making so much money and his cap hit is so high, it just makes it a little more challenging. But I definitely see where you're coming from. And if you guys want the show to start, like the video. We got 37 people watching, only 11 likes. Listen, I always like to compare it as when you're walking into somebody's home, you take your shoes off, you show respect. When you're coming into the live, show respect, like the video. We're trying to push this out to more and more Vikings fans. It's an easy way to help me. Let's get to 20 likes here real quick. We're only at 11. If you guys did like the video, just type me, and I'll give you a shout-out right now. Anthony Sebring saying, yes, re-sign Kirk. It was not all his fault for the loss. It was on the D as well. Sebring, I honestly think you're not giving Kirk enough credit. I think probably say 70% of that loss against the Giants was on the defense. I don't think Kirk Cousins really, like obviously he did not complete the game-winning drive, but he played great that whole game. He was 31 of 39, 270 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks. I mean, he had a very, very solid playoff. Viking Nation said, I sadly want the Purdue quarterback. He reminds me of a young Drew Brees. Yeah, I mean, listen, I love the Drew Brees comparison since they both went to Purdue. I don't know. I mean, the thing is with him, it would probably have to be a 5th, 6th, or 7th round pick. I wouldn't be too upset about it, but, I mean, we'll see. I'm curious to see what the Vikings do. Assuming you're talking about Aiden O'Connell here. Good name, good quarterback name in my opinion. But speaking about the draft, let me know. What position do you guys want to draft in this upcoming year's draft? Let me know one position. You're sitting on the board at 23. You're Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah. You have the whole board there. It doesn't matter about best player available, any of that. Let me know what position you guys will draft. I'm leaning corner. That's where I'm just going to throw it out there. I'm going cornerback. As we said, Meep saying Dalvin Cook needs to go. Meep, I've done a lot of Dalvin Cook talk, and I totally agree with you. It's just no reason to keep a running back on this roster making that much money when he's not nearly as productive as he once was. Holden saying, me, I liked. Shout out to everybody who's liked the video. Helps us out here a lot. Toxic 4th and 8 check down. There is no way that is your name. There is no way your name is Toxic 4th and 8 check down. I love it. Kirk would have gotten smacked the week after. 49ers, time to move on. Kirk had his run. I kind of agree with you. I'll get into it more later. I don't want to give you guys all my thoughts so far. And Don says, me, watch you every day, brother. Appreciate all the updates. Hey, shout out to you. It really helps a lot here. I mean, just liking the video, commenting, goes a long way here. You're the man. I really do appreciate it. And then Caleb Kelly said, you think the new defensive coordinator will help? I think the new defensive coordinator, Brian Flores, will do wonders for this team. I think you're going to see a totally different team out here. I mean, you had the Ed Donatel soft shell zone coverage, dropping back, corners playing 10 yards off. Now you got Brian Flores, get in your face, press man, heavy blitz. I'm excited to see what B-Flow will do for the Vikes. He says, go Witherspoon or Porter. If Devin Witherspoon falls to you at 23, I will be screaming at the TV to take Devin Witherspoon. He is next up in the NFL. Toxic 4th and 8, saying wide receiver, defensive tackle, or DB. Lewis coming in here with the skulls. Anthony Sebring said, what do you think about the new DC? Can he take us all the way? See, I love the new DC. I kind of just mentioned why I like him. He's more aggressive than Ed Donatel was. The thing is about Flores is I think he's going to do a really good job this year. I just think he's probably going to be gone. I think once he has a good year, he's going to turn this defense around. He'll probably go get a head coaching job, which is a good and also a bad thing. Yes, you take him, Devin Witherspoon or Brian Bresee. Yeah, I just still go Witherspoon. I still think corner's more of a position of need for the Vikes. But, yeah, Witherspoon 100%. So, we are going to have 2 mailbags on today's live show. A mailbag is, still new here. If you guys get in the comments exactly what you're doing right now, but just in your comment, if you just do #Vikings, our software, my man Trace right here, he'll be able to pull your question and he'll be able to put it on screen. And we're going to have 2 mailbags where I answer your question. It could be about anything. It could be about the NFL draft, Vikings cut candidates, Vikings trade candidates. Be like, hey, do you think the Vikings should trade for this guy? Whatever it may be, just make sure you use #Vikings when you ask your question. Or it could just be a take. Hey, I don't think Kirk Cousins is a top 10 quarterback. #Vikings. If you don't use #Vikings, we won't be able to get you up on the show. And then, hey, if you guys also want to support the show, you could always send in a super chat to that little dollar icon down there. It will guarantee you your questions on the show, and I'll spend a lot of time talking about it. It's a great way to help support us out. To send in a super chat, whatever it may be. It could be 2, 5, whatever it is. If it's super chat, if you guys have the money for that, if you guys want your question asked badly, that's always another way. But hashtag Vikings right there. Get those questions in the chat, and we will have 2 mailbags coming to you guys later. But the first segment we have on the show is actually a rumors segment about Kirk Cousins, Dalvin Tomlinson, and John Michael Schmitz, the center out of Minnesota. I'm going to be diving into all 3 of those topics right now. But get those questions in there. We're going to hop into the first segment right now, as long as Trace gives me the green light. Ready to go. So on today's show, we're going to be talking about Kirk Cousins, Dalvin Tomlinson, and John Michael Schmitz. But first, I want to make sure you guys are subscribed. I have a goal for myself and just a goal for the channel in general. 15,000 subscribers before the start of next season. I'm actually in a sub-battle race with our New Orleans Saints channel. We're having a little competition. First one to 15,000 subs. Listen, guys, I hate the Saints. I know you hate the Saints. It's free. Just go down there and hit that subscribe button. It really will help me out. And, hey, if you just want to stick it to the Saints and you don't even really care about the subscription, just go down there, stick it to the Saints, and hit that sub button. Welcome into Vikings Now. I am your host, Patrick Siepman. On today's show, like I mentioned, Kirk Cousins, Dalvin Tomlinson, and John Michael Schmitz. But first, we're going to start off. Should the Vikings extend Kirk Cousins? There's been a lot of talk on this, kind of thrown around on Twitter. And The Athletic, their beat reporter, Alec Lewis, he actually suggested this in his last article. Alex Lewis, he said the Vikings should extend Kirk Cousins. He was kind of getting at the point that this is the number one, it's a best-case scenario for the Vikings offseason. Cousins, he's under contract through the 2023 season. And honestly, if the Vikings were going to extend him, the number one positive of this, without really getting into the numbers, which we will do, is it would just reduce the cap hit on this next year's cap. And that's obviously huge. The Vikings are sitting at $25 million over the cap right now. And if you would extend Kirk, restructure that contract a little bit, you could really save a lot on this year's cap. But this brings up the great debate, the Kirk debate. And that is, can Vikings quarterback Kirk Cousins take you to the Super Bowl? My initial response to this is yes. I think Kirk Cousins, and I think a lot of quarterbacks in the NFL, are good enough to take you to the Super Bowl. And if you look at what the Niners did this past year with Brock Purdy, yes, Brock Purdy is a good young quarterback, but he wasn't really the person driving that bus. Do I think Kirk Cousins can be a bus driver on a Super Bowl team? No, probably not. But if you put the right roster around him, I do think Kirk is good enough to be a Super Bowl on a champion, or be the quarterback on a championship team. Now let's look at the kind of contract details, because we do need to dive into this. Right now, Kirk, he's just under contract for this upcoming year. And his average salary this upcoming year is $35 million. All of that is guaranteed, all $35 million of that. And if he was traded post June 1st, the cap savings on Kirk Cousins, so let's just say it's the middle of June, July, and the Vikings decide to move off of Kirk Cousins, they would save $30 million, and only $6.25 million would be put in the dead cap. Overall, Kirk Cousins this past season, I thought he was okay. Honestly, if you talk about Kirk in the 2021 and 2020 seasons, statistically, I think he was a little better. But this past year, I mean, throwing 66% completion percentage, 4,500 yards, 29 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. Kirk Cousins is overall just a solid quarterback. And you may be asking, why would you extend Kirk Cousins? I think overall, he is a solid quarterback. He's in that 10 to 15 range. For me, as quarterbacks in the NFL, I think there's obviously a lot of young and upcoming quarterbacks who are better than him. And I also think he gives you another year to find that franchise quarterback. If you don't love where you're sitting in this next year's draft, where you don't love Anthony Richardson at 23, you don't love Will Levis or a Hendon Hooker, I think it gives you another year. If you extend Kirk Cousins, it gives you another year to go find that other guy. And yes, Kirk Cousins can win you games. And also, it will reduce the cap hit for this next upcoming year. But I will say this, you're going to need to have to take a risk eventually. Yes, like I said, I think Kirk Cousins is good enough to win you a Super Bowl, but he can't be the bus driver on that Super Bowl team. If you're looking at the past Super Bowl champions, their quarterbacks were the ones driving the bus. I think eventually you're going to need to take a risk. It could be a guy like an Anthony Richardson, who I'm really starting to fall in love with in this upcoming year's draft. I just think, yes, Kirk Cousins, it's the safe play here. I do think eventually you're going to need to move all your chips to the center and go all in and take that risk eventually. But this is the best part about the channel. I want to get your guys' thoughts. And this will be the pinned comment on today's video. So if an ad break comes, take advantage of it, let the ad play, and answer this question down below. Do you want to extend Kirk Cousins? I'll make this the pinned comment like I just mentioned. Type Y for yes or N for no if do you want to extend Kirk Cousins. Now, Dalvin Tomlinson, some breaking news today. No more rumors on the Vikings channel. We actually had some news. A report came out that Dalvin Tomlinson, he pushed back his void year date to March 15th. And this is extremely significant because Dalvin Tomlinson, he is set to become a free agent this upcoming year. And he had a pretty solid year for the Vikings this past season. But he is set to become a free agent in this upcoming year. This pretty much just means the Vikings will have more time to work on a contract extension. Now, Vikes Insider, it's a great Twitter account. I do recommend if you aren't following them, to follow them right now. They broke it down pretty simply. They said defensive tackle Dalvin Tomlinson and the team agreed to move his contract void date to March 15th. What does this mean? If Minnesota and Dalvin Tomlinson reach a deal before March 15th, just $2.5 million of dead cap from the old deal will count towards the 2023 cap instead of $7.5 million. Pretty much this was a great move on both sides. I think this is honestly Dalvin Tomlinson trying to maybe get that longer extension, and the Vikings honestly just trying to keep a really solid player. Because this past year, especially before he got hurt, he was solid. I love interior defensive linemen that can get to the quarterback. Those 3 sacks, I think he had around 15 pressures. That's not up there, but 1 forced fumble and 1 fumble recovery for Dalvin Tomlinson with 42 tackles. He was a menace on the interior of this defensive line this past season. And Spotrac did a contract projection for Dalvin Tomlinson, which I could actually get behind. Normally, Spotrac kind of overvalues a lot of these players, but they had him slated as a 3-year, $25.5 million deal with the annual salary ending up being $8.5 million per year. And for that price, bring him back. Bring back Dalvin Tomlinson to Minnesota. Because like I just said, when he was healthy at the beginning of this year, he was fantastic. He was that disruptive force on the interior of that defensive line who can also get to the quarterback. That is such a rare kind of trait and characteristic of a defensive lineman when they do have that pass rushing ability and you are going against that center and guard. To be able to get to the quarterback and that interior pressure, it's a huge positive for this Vikings team. So for that price, I'm bringing him back. But let me know, how much per year are you willing to give Dalvin Tomlinson? I'm probably floating through that Spotrac projection around $8.5 million, maybe a little less, maybe around $7 million. But if they sign him to, like, let's just say a 3-year, $10 million deal, I would not be too upset. But get down in the comments, let me know, how much per year would you give Dalvin Tomlinson? Now the Garrett Bradbury replacement staying in Minnesota in this upcoming draft. There's been a lot of talk on Vikings Twitter recently about who could be the next Garrett Bradbury for the Minnesota Vikings. I think it's this guy, John Michael Schmitz, the center out of Minnesota. If we just look at his PFF grades over the past 3 seasons, that's incredible. This right here, the 2022 grade at 92.3, this was the highest out of any offensive lineman in college football this past season. And I do think he's a little different. If you guys remember last year, Tyler Linderbaum coming out of Iowa. Tyler Linderbaum was probably the better prospect. Right now, John Michael Schmitz is supposed to be going late first to second to maybe late second. So I don't think the Vikings they don't have a second-round pick. So will you have to take him in round 1, or could you trade up to round 2 and try to get him? But I do think you're going to need to find a Bradbury replacement, because if the Vikings let Bradbury walk in free agency, I would honestly love this pick. Even if you are going to have to probably trade up to the second round to get a guy like this. But if you're letting Bradbury walk, and we saw this offensive line this past season, when Bradbury went out with injury, the whole dynamic changed. The whole just continuity on the offensive line, it fell apart. Spotrac did the same thing with Bradbury. They gave a contract projection. 4 years. Yes, you are reading this right. 4 years, $47 million at around $12 million per year. I'm sorry. He's just not getting that. He's just not getting that money, at least from the Vikings. Maybe he could go get that on the open market. And Bradbury, he was good this past year, but he wasn't great by any means. I think the Bradbury hype and the excitement that came from him this past season came from 2 things. One, he was terrible the years before. So obviously when you're starting to get some production from a guy like that and some positive production, it's going to stand out noticeably more. 2, when the offensive line got hurt, or when he got hurt, the offensive line fell apart. So I think maybe Bradbury's value is kind of being a little escalated right now and a little blown out of proportion. But for $12 million a year, there's not a chance I'm giving Bradbury that salary. But also, I'm not taking John Michael Schmitz in round 1. I'm just not going to take a center in round 1. I know the Ravens did last year with Tyrell Lindenbaum, and I get it. Tyrell Lindenbaum's a great prospect, and he will still be a great center in the NFL. And John Michael Schmitz, he could be. He could be an 11 to 12-year starter for the Vikes, and he could be getting all pros. He could be the next Jason Kelsey. I'm just not comfortable with taking the most valuable asset in the draft, that first-round pick, and wasting it on a center. I'm just against that, but I do want to get your guys' thoughts on this. What position do you think what position do you want the Vikings to draft? Let me know in the comments down below. As always, thank you guys so much for watching today's video. It's been great hanging out with you guys, talking about the rumors and news from the Minnesota Vikings. Let me know. Get down in the comments. What position do you want the Vikings to draft? All right, guys. That was it. Rounding out the rumors here. Let's see what everybody's got to say. What position do you guys want the Vikings to draft? Thanks. Good video coming in from Toxic 4th and 8. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. Got a lot of yeses coming in from the question of, do you want to extend Kirk Cousins? Interesting to see. So, John Michael Schmitz, I am curious if you guys want to take him in round 1. We got Mark Wheeler saying he would. It's just tough. I never get around taking a center in round 1. It's center and running back and probably off-ball linebacker. If I was a GM in the National Football League, I would never take either of those positions in round 1. I don't know. Get those position groups in there. As what position do you want the Vikings draft? As Alfie PT, welcome. I always see you in the comments and from the live parties. Welcome into the show. Tim 4CN is saying, I'm keeping Kirk and drafting either a center or a wideout. Kirk was awesome this year. If our defense was halfway decent, we would have won it all. Honestly, the defense was literally last in about everything. If this defense was middle of the pack, the Vikings, they would have definitely made it out of Wild Card Weekend. As the Pass Master, welcome. Big-time Vikings fan, big-time Chat Sports fan overall, saying cornerback or wide receiver. Viking Nation is saying Noah Sewell. Pass Master's a legend here. Dude, I see him everywhere. Holden saying linebacker, safety, edge. Yeah, I would probably lean edge out of those three. Viking Nation did say Noah Sewell as another one. But, guys, we are going to have a mailbag coming up here. We got 2 mailbags. The first one's going to come up right now. Then I'm going to talk trade candidates, and then we're going to do another mailbag. So if you guys haven't got your questions in there already, just use #Vikings, whatever it may be. Passmaster, Alfie, get a question in there. Anthony Sebring, right there, what you just ask it again. Just use #Vikings. #Vikings and ask a question. I want to see one from Tim. I want to see one from Holden. I want to see one from Anthony Sebring. Everybody get a question in there right now, and we are going to get into a Minnesota Vikings mailbag talking about it all. Talking about all the rumors, news, whatever it may be. We're going to talk about it all on today's show. Keep getting those questions in there. Tim saying Kirko Chains can take us to the Super Bowl, and the fact you're dodging Kirko I am not dogging Kirko. I just said Kirk could take you to a Super Bowl. I agree with that. Yeah. You can throw that in there. Okay. Yeah, I am not dogging Kirk Cousins. First off, I love Kirk Cousins. I just think eventually you're going to have to take a risk. I just think it's going to be one of those things where you just got to eventually shove all your chips to the center of the table and take a risk like that. But keep getting those questions in there. Oh, great question. Keep getting those questions in there. We ready to go? All right. Trace is giving me the green light. Let's do it. Welcome to the Vikings Now. I am your host, Patrick Siepman. Today's show, we got a Minnesota Vikings mailbag coming your way where I take questions from the live chat on our weekly or every other week live shows that we are doing here. And the first question, it's a banger, by the way, from MKX. He comes in and he says, #Vikings, Kirk and the 23rd overall pick for Lamar Jackson. Wow, Kirk and the 23rd overall pick for Lamar Jackson. That would completely change the NFL. One, do I think it gets it done? I'm not sure. I don't know if Baltimore agrees to that. I think Baltimore will want maybe more draft compensation for Lamar. But, hey, I mean, giving them Kirk Cousins, a solid quarterback, and a first-round pick, and then you get to bring Lamar to Minnesota. I mean, could you imagine an offense of Lamar Jackson, Justin Jefferson, if we keep Dalvin Cook, and TJ Hawkinson? MKX, I like your thought. You're thinking aggressive. You're thinking how I would think as a GM. We got a $5 super chat coming in from my man, the Pass Master. Thank you so much for the support here. Patrick, you and Chat Sports rock. I really do appreciate it. What do you think? We lure a CB in free agency and draft a lineman, or do you think it's the other way around? Hashtag real one. Cheers to you, Pass Master. We appreciate the support here on the channel. So will we lure in a CB and draft an offensive lineman? There are a lot of good corners in this year's draft. There are a lot of guys I like. Obviously, Devin Witherspoon, Christian Gonzalez, Joey Porter Jr., Keely Rango from Georgia. There's a lot of guys that I really like at the corner position. But if you could go out and get a guy like a Cam Sutton who's already familiar with Flores, and then maybe take an offensive lineman in round one. See, if we get the draft night and the Vikings have fixed their cornerback position, they have fixed their interior defensive line, they have fixed kind of the key needs that they need. That John Michael Schmitz guy, if you fix everything and your really only need is an interior offensive line at the center position, I might lean taking John Michael Schmitz in round one. Pass Master, thank you so much. Great question. Skull Bowl coming with another question about the quarterback, and I love this one right here. Should the Vikings draft Tennessee quarterback Hendon Hooker? That's great. This has been Trace Gerard's guy for the longest time, and he's been kind of hyping me up about Hendon Hooker, and I'm kind of starting to come around on him, because if you look at these stats, man, if these don't blow you off the screen, I don't know what will. 69% completion percentage, pass yards just over 3,000, a 27-2 touchdown interception ratio, and he's got that dual threat ability. 104 carries, 430 yards with 5 rushing touchdowns. Hendon Hooker, if he's there with your third-round pick, and the Vikings, if you're trying to get a little aggressive and take a guy like Hendon Hooker, I could really get behind that. I don't mind that at all. Drafting Hendon Hooker in the third round. Would I want to trade up for him? Second, first round? Probably not. Third round, if he's there on your board, I wouldn't be opposed to taking him. And I do want to ask you guys, help us out here. We're trying to get the 15K subs before the start of next season. We're in a sub battle with our New Orleans Saints channel here at Chat Sports, and they got a little 300 sub lead on us right now. And me and Trace, the host of the Saints Today by Chat Sports, we've been going back and forth. So I am asking for your guys' help. It's free, helps me out a lot. Just go right down there, hit that subscribe button. Next question coming in from Caleb Kelly. Do you think we need offensive linemen or defensive linebackers and linemen? So what do I think we need more? Starting on the offensive side of the football, we have our tackles for the future. I think Darrisaw and O'Neal, probably a top 5 duo of tackles in the NFL. We obviously know Darrisaw. He's the franchise over there. And I do like Ezra Cleveland. Very inconsistent, but I do like what Ezra Cleveland's done. Obviously, Garrett Bradbury, we touched on him a lot so far on today's video, but he's kind of a question mark. And then Ed Ingram at right guard right now, still shaky there. I would lean defensively. I would lean maybe taking a linebacker, because I think Eric Kendricks, Jordan Hicks, I think they're both going to get cut. And I do love Brian Asamoah. I think he's going to be the future at that linebacker position. But of those 3 offensive linemen, linebackers, and defensive linemen, I'm going linebackers. Viking Nation saying, should Minnesota draft a Michigan Wolverine kicker or the Georgia kicker? So I'll let my bias kind of take control here. Give me Jake Moody, the Michigan kicker. Greg Joseph, he's a free agent this year. It'll be actually interesting to see if the Vikes end up bringing him back. But give me Jake Moody. I mean, he didn't miss a single extra point in college, 83% field goal percentage, and he had a long of 59. He was just consistent for the Wolverines this past year. If he's there maybe in the 7th round, I do have a theory, though. I hate drafting kickers because I think kicking is such a mental position in football. Kind of having that draft title in the back of your head, like, oh, we drafted you. We spent a pick on you. I think it can sometimes mess with kickers' heads a little bit. But out of those 2, give me Jake Moody from Michigan. Shout out to Scully Roley with a question here. He says, will the Vikings cut Adam Thielen? So this is a It's a sensitive topic, I think, among Vikings fans because you have the hometown hero, Adam Thielen, but financially, it might make too much sense to cut him. The Vikings, if they cut him pre-June 1st, would save $6.5 million. Then if they cut him after June 1st, they would save $13.5 million on next year's cap. Listen, Thielen, he's been great for the Vikes over his year. This is one of those things, financially, it just make too much sense. Because look at these numbers. He hasn't eclipsed over 1,000 yards over the past 4 seasons. And the touchdown numbers were great in 2020 and 2021. 14 touchdowns in 2020, 10 touchdowns in 2021. This past year, he was fine. I mean, separation was sort of an issue for Thielen, but still 70 receptions, 716 yards, 10 yards per catch with 6 touchdowns. You'll take that. You'll take that out of Adam Thielen. And I do say, I will want to ask you guys this. Do you want to cut Adam Thielen in this upcoming year? I do think it's going to be an interesting topic among Vikings fans because he is a hometown kid. It's going to hurt cutting a guy like Adam Thielen. But financially, just where the Vikings are at as a franchise, do you want to cut Adam Thielen? Type C for cut or type K for keep. Get down in the comments and let me know. Alfie PT is saying, what will happen with the cornerbacks on the Vikings roster? That's a good question. The Vikings, their top 2 corners from this past season, Patrick Peterson, Duke Shelley, are both set to become free agents. You obviously got still guys like Cameron Dantzler, Andrew Booth, Caleb Evans. Those are the 3 guys that I'm curious to see if one of those guys will step up for the Vikes. But I think re-sign Duke Shelley, go get a guy like Cam Sutton, and then maybe draft a guy. That's what I would do to fix this cornerback room. Next question coming in from To The Moon, saying, what is your way too early record prediction for the Minnesota Vikings? So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to pull up the Vikings opponents and see who they got on the schedule next season because they do have a tough schedule, at least comparison to last year. So we're obviously playing the NFC North, Bears, Lions, Packers. Let's just say we go 5-1 in the division. I'll be generous. I'll be very optimistic here. Then we are playing 2 teams from the NFC South, Saints and Buccaneers. Sorry, Trace. We're beating both of those. I'm going to get us to 7 wins right there. AFC West, we're facing the Chiefs and the Chargers. Honestly, I think we dropped both those games. So we're at 7-3 right now. Then we got the Niners. Sadly, I think that's a loss as well. So we're at 7-4. And then we got the NFC South, Falcons, Panthers. Get me the 9-4. AFC West, Broncos, Raiders. So we split that 10-5. And then we got the Eagles and the Bengals to round it out. I'm going to go 10-7. I think the Vikings have a tough schedule. I think they'll be 10-7 to end the year. I think they'll be floating in for that wild card spot. Maybe the division's a little closer where there's more of a race for the NFC North at the end of next season. I'll go 10-7. The Vikings do have a tough schedule. They actually face all 4 Final Four teams in the Chiefs, Bengals, Niners, and Eagles. If you could even get 1 win out of those 4 teams, I would take it. And also, the Vikes, they went 11-0 in the regular season in 1-score games. You're most likely not going to do that again. There's going to be some sort of regression, but you can also play the positive. We got Brian Flores now. I'm going to sit around 10-7. I'll go 11-6 if I'm being a little more optimistic. But we know, how many games do you guys think the Vikings will win next season? Obviously, we still have all the cuts. We got the draft. We got free agency. There's going to be injuries. We don't even know the schedule and the dates, how it's lined out so far, but just get in the comments. Let me know, how many games do you think the Vikings will win next season? If you made it to the end of today's video, you're a real one. I really do appreciate you guys hanging out with me. If you guys did, just type real one down below. It helps me know who the real ones are on the channel. Just give me a real one in the comments right now, and I'll see you guys next time. Let's go Vikes. All right, so let me know, how many games you guys think the Vikings will win next season? AFX Apocalypse, welcome. First time seeing you on Vikings. Good to have you in the chat. Saying I hope the Vikings don't get Stetson Bennett. AFX, I'll tell you what. If he goes to the Browns and we get to see Petey's reaction to that, I would love it. I would love it. Could you imagine? Petey's reaction. Race. Okay. 7th rounder.
For reference, for those who don't know, Petey, our Browns host here, said that Stetson Bennett will not get drafted, like at the beginning of the college football season.
Yeah.
And we've been sitting here all year saying, Petey, you don't win back-to-back national championships and get passed on in the 7th round. Yep. There's not players that you would take over that.
So we need him to the Browns. Browns 7th round pick. They need a backup quarterback. I'm hoping it happens, AFX. But the Lippy saying real one, yeah, just get rid of Eric Kendricks. He's got to go. He lost a step. I agree with you there. Lippy saying 11-7, 11-6. Luis Caro is saying real one. Jaden Berry saying 9-8. Anthony Sebring's going a little more optimistic than I am. He's going 12-5. He also saying real one. Past master saying LMAO SMH. And then Caden Brooks is saying 12-5. I have been bringing up Stetson Bennett to him so much. I know you've been driving him crazy in the Browns chats whenever I'm over there. Vikings Nation saying 17. Shotgun and beer. Lewis, if we get a $20 super chat, I'll do a shot fund during this next
If we do 50, then I'll race him on a shot fund.
There you go. You heard it here. You heard it here.
And by the way, I'm a Saints fan, if that means anything.
Yeah, you guys get to see me kick a Saints fan's ass in a shot fund race. Brian Forrest says, what do you think about Cousins for 3 more years, collect draft picks for Eli Manning's son if he comes out as a junior? Brian, you're thinking big right now. Arch Manning to the Vikes. I love it, Brian Forrest. You're thinking down the road. You're thinking like a GM. Love to hear it. God, that would be interesting, though.
What are your thoughts on drafting baby Gronk in 2035?
Oh, that kid, the kid I've seen. Yes, we got to start tanking for him. I mean, he's literally the next Gronk. He's got a trademark. See, I don't know, Brian, if I could do 3 more years of Kirk though. I don't know if I could wait on that. But good question. All right, guys, we do have one more segment and then the last mailbag on today's show. Oh, we're actually talking. Somebody commented, extend Kirk for 3 more years, and then draft Arch Manning. I kind of love it. All right, so I got 5 players the Vikings could potentially trade away. The Vikings, I think they're gonna make some moves. The roster's gonna look completely different at the beginning of next season. So I got 5 players I think the Vikings are going to trade away, and then we also have a mailbag. So if you guys didn't get your questions in, all good. You can super chat or use hashtag Vikings. Get those in there. Let's talk about 5 players the Vikings could trade away. Welcome to the Vikings Now. I am your host, Patrick Siepman. Thank you guys for joining us today. On today's show, we got 5 players that I think the Minnesota Vikings could trade away. Normally, we're doing trade candidates, people the Vikings could trade for. Today, we're doing players on the Vikings roster that I think could get shipped out. And, hey, before we get started, I had my bosses in my ear again. I hate when they're always in my ear saying, hey, Patrick, I bet you Vikings fans can't get the 200 likes on today's video. And every single time I say, every single time you ask me to do this, they blow the like goal out of the water. Last video, we got 500 likes. Let's prove them wrong again. Like today's video for I can get my bosses out of my ear saying, can Vikings fans even live up to expectations? Shut them up. Like today's video. Number 1 trade candidate for the Minnesota Vikings, Cam Dantzler. Cam Dantzler. This is Cameron Dantzler is an interesting one here because 1, how much trade value does he actually have? And 2, he's still kind of got that young potential and that lengthy corner that I really do like. Looking at his 2022 stats, he wasn't very good. I mean, on 51 targets, he let up 40 receptions. He only had 5 pass breakups. He had 0 interceptions, and he had 44 tackles, and he had a PFF grade of 64.7. And Luke Parrish, he does a great job covering the Vikings, and he broke down the kind of potential Cam Dantzler trade with this. Even with major questions at that position, the cornerback position for the Minnesota Vikings next season, Dantzler could be traded to make room for his replacement. He is set to just make under $3 million next season and has plenty of starting experience under his belt. So my kind of take on this is, number 1, I don't think Dantzler has that much trade value. I mean, realistically, what could you get? Like, if a contender calls your phone, how much do you think you could get? Honestly, I think it's a day 3 pick. And number 2, I think you're honestly better off just letting it ride with Dantzler. I mean, obviously, he's not going to be your corner 1 or 2 coming in the next season. But him as the cornerback number 3, I'm not really that opposed to it because he is a young talent, and I wouldn't be that upset at just saying, Dantzler, we know you've had an inconsistent start to your NFL season. Just ride it out. Let's see if you can develop. Because, listen, he is a young guy. He's 6'2". He's got great length. I love the way he kind of plays with an aggression. It just always seems like when it's those 50-50 balls with him, he just can never get that clutch pass breakup or that clutch interception. But I want to ask you guys this. How much do you trust Cameron Dantzler, and scale it 1 to 10? Trust level, like let's just say it's a 4th quarter game and you got Dantzler man-to-man on the other team's wide receiver 3. What's your trust level with that? Scale it 1 to 10. If that's the situation, I'm probably leaning at about a 4 or a 5 right now. Next Vikings trade candidate, we got interior linebacker Troy Dye. Troy Dye, he's had a slow start to his NFL career with the Vikes. He is an extremely undersized linebacker. He is skinny, and he does not wear gloves. Troy Dye is one of the more, weirder is a mean word to say about him. But when he's on the football field, he's only weighing 220, and he doesn't wear gloves. He's one of the weirder-looking football players out there. But he hasn't had that good of a start to his NFL career. Look at his career stats. Only 63 tackles, no forced fumbles, 1 fumble recovery, and more of a coverage linebacker, he only really has 2 pass breakups. And Luke Parrish, again, he mentioned on the Troy Dye trade rumors, he said Dye is a slender linebacker that thrives in coverage, which is something that has become more desirable around the NFL. Personally, I would prefer the Vikings to go out and find his replacement in the draft, and I kind of agree. And I also do think it is Brian Asamoah season at linebacker. Brian Asamoah, if you're talking about you're building your defense around a guy. And with Brian Flores, the aggressive nature that he just naturally coaches that side of the football with, Brian Asamoah is going to have a great year. Trade Troy Dye out of there. Have it all be about Asamoah. Cut Eric Hendricks. Cut Jordan Hicks. Get those old, slow linebackers out of here, and let's have it all be about Brian Asamoah. Third trade candidate I have on today's video is edge rusher DJ Wonnum. DJ Wonnum, he's had a okay start to his NFL season or NFL career. He really popped in year 2, which was great to see. But besides that, he hasn't really done much. This past year, he was kind of a disappointment. But his career numbers, 109 tackles, 15 sacks through 3 seasons, forced fumbles, he's had 3, and he's had 17 tackles for loss. DJ Wonnum, not too good against the run, and he's kind of been shaky as a pass rusher this past season. And again, Luke Parrish on the DJ Wonnum trade rumors said Wonnum took a step back last season with this Darius Smith taking over the starting job, but still, there are better players in rotation. Patrick Jones II made tremendous strides in his second NFL season, and I think Patrick Jones, he could be the future, honestly, at the edge position if we do cut Darius Smith and keep Danielle Hunter. I think it could be Jones and Hunter as the start, but a little prediction that I'm making right now, Kwesi, last year he drafted his guys and a lot of them got hurt. He wasn't really able to see Kwesi's draft class kind of being put to full effect. I expect with whether it's cuts, trades, or just drafting their replacements, expect Kwesi Adolfo-Mensa to move off of a bunch of Rick Spielman players and a bunch of that Mike Zimmer, Rick Spielman era where we are really going to see a completely new Vikings 53-man roster. Number 4 on my list of potential Vikings trade candidates, it's a big name. It's Danielle Hunter, one of my favorite Vikings players of all times, and I hate putting his name on this list because honestly, if you're looking at his career numbers right now, he is one of the more productive edge rushers in NFL history in his shorter career in the NFL. 378 tackles, 71 sacks, 7 forced fumbles, and 85 tackles for loss. And the reason this would hurt me, honestly, is he was always that one guy when the Vikings were when they were talking about kind of pop players. You know, every year there's like that breakout star. I remember his rookie year, I was talking to my dad. I was like, this Danielle Hunter guy, just looking at him, he is going to be fantastic. Ended up working out. But I do know the Cleveland Browns do need an edge rusher to kind of pair up next to Myles Garrett with Jadeveon Clowney leaving. And I kind of got in the lab with our Browns Report host here, Matthew Peterson, and we cooked up a potential trade. The Vikings don't have a second-round pick this year. So the Vikings would receive the Browns' second-round pick, 43rd overall. The Browns would receive Danielle Hunter and a 5th-round pick. Danielle Hunter, he's already missed 2 seasons due to injury. Honestly, I don't hate this trade as much as I thought I would for the Vikes because if you get that 43rd overall pick, you can do a lot with that. You can go corner, quarterback, whatever you don't do in round 1, you can just do that in round 2, and especially with the Vikes not having a second-round pick, this trade kind of entices me a little bit. But let me know, would you accept this trade? Type Y for yes, type N for no. Let me get your thoughts down in the comment section. Danielle Hunter for a second? Honestly, it doesn't seem too bad of a trade to me. Just let me know, would you accept this trade? Y for yes, N for no. Number 5, rounding out here, you know I was going to talk about him, Mr. Dalvin Cook, running back for the Minnesota Vikings. Dalvin Cook, production has gone down over the past couple of years, and we're just looking at yards per carry. You see it on your screen right now. 5.0, 2020, 2021, 4.7, 2022, 4.4. Dalvin Cook, he's taken a step back. I still think he's in that top 15, the top 20 running back range. But honestly, if you look at the cap numbers, he's going to be paid as the 6th highest running back in the NFL next season. I would just not bring him back on that contract. A little trade idea that actually me and Will Scott, host of Dolphins Today, cooked up. Xavier Howard, Dalvin Cook, straight up trade. Xavier, he's unhappy in Miami. Dalvin Cook might get cut in Minnesota. Vikings need a corner. Dolphins need a running back. Dalvin's from Miami. Xavier Howard used to play with Brian Flores. It honestly makes too much sense. There is so much kind of just connecting the dots here is that Xavier Howard, Dalvin Cook, obviously financially we'll let the nerds figure that one out. But hey, Xavier Howard, Dalvin Cook, I like that trade straight up. I don't know about you guys. Let me know, though, if you would trade Dalvin Cook. Type T for trade or type P for pass. If you're cool with just keeping Dalvin Cook on the roster, paying him the money he's going to set to be made next season, just let me know. T for trade, P for pass. Let me know down in the comments section. Honorable mention here, Kirk Cousins. I didn't want to talk about this, but there's just so much talk on how the Vikings can trade Kirk Cousins and move on from him. So I came up with just 4 reasons why the Vikings could look to trade Kirk. Obviously, financially, the no trade clause, it's going to be tough to move him. But 4 reasons. Number 1, he's only going to become more expensive. With the cap going up, with him kind of slowly playing better, he's only going to get more expensive, and he's set to hit $35 million this next year. I think if he wants an extension, it might be in that $40 million range, and he hasn't shown me anything in the past that he's willing to make a pay cut. And he's getting up there in age. He's already 34. Obviously, we've seen Tom Brady play till he's 45, but I think most quarterbacks, they kind of start tapping out at that 38 to 39 range. I mean, we've already seen it with Rodgers this past year, and he's one of the greatest throwers of the football in NFL history. And personally, number 3, I think the championship window is with Justin Jefferson, and he's going to be entering his 4th year. So if you extend him and give him that big deal, I would rather have Jefferson be the one with the big deal on offense in comparison to Kirk. And also about Kirk, he's not going to change. I mean, Kirk's going to be the same guy. He's going to be the same guy that takes the check down on 4th and 8 in the playoffs against the New York Giants. He's going to be good enough to get you there. He's going to be good enough to win you 10, 12, 13 games even and win the NFC North. But is he good enough in those crunch time moments, those game-winning drives, when you need it? Is Kirk the guy to get it done? Track record has shown that he's not. So, number 4, Kirk isn't really going to change. So, trade Kirk, obviously, it is extremely unlikely because of his contract and the no-trade clause. But, hey, it is definitely fun to speculate. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. Those are 5 trade candidates for the Minnesota Vikings. Obviously, I think the Vikings are going to make a ton of moves. I think Kwesi is going to be moving off a lot of Rick Spielman draft picks. Thank you guys so much for watching. And as always, Skol Vikes. So let me know in the comments, would you trade Dalvin Cook? Trade Kirk for Matt Ryan, AFX. That's just, I mean, you're trading toast for toast. Cook for Howard, let's go. Yeah, no, literally. And plus, Kirk's way better than Matt Ryan right now. Matt Ryan's washed. The Lippy saying, I know this is insane, but Sauce Gardner for Kirk and Zadarius Smith. I mean, the Jets hang up the phone immediately. I like the thought. I would love to have Sauce Gardner. He's sick. I mean, the long corner. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Oh, Sauce is going to get – he's going to be a lifetime Jet. The Lippy saying extension or trade. I mean, we could – see, the thing is with Dalvin, you could extend him and kind of push a lot of this money back and lower the cap hit this next year, which I wouldn't be opposed to. But, again, he's 27, turning 28. Running backs, they normally lose their juice at around that age anyways, and he's already kind of showed me it. So a lot of you guys are saying T for trade, but we do have one final mailbag that we are going to get to. One final mailbag on today's show. AFX? No, not going to happen. Use hashtag Vikings if you guys haven't got your question asked already, or Super Chat to get on the show. Anthony Sebring saying, I would love Xavier for Dalvin Cook. I would too. I mean, Xavier Howard for Dalvin Cook, it's literally just a match made in heaven for both sides. Miami, they get their running back. Mike McDaniel, obviously, they weren't good at running the football last year, but a really good running scheme and running philosophy over there in Miami. Dalvin's from Miami. I love it. Hashtag Vikings. Vikings trade 3 firsts for Joey Bosa. Great question, Viking Nation. Great question. We'd have better luck going for Derek Stingley than Sauce. Yeah, good point. I mean, obviously, we're going to trade for one of those top corners from last year's draft. Probably got a better chance traded for Stingley right now instead of Sauce. Yeah, Sebring, but I agree. I mean, Xavier Howard for Dalvin Cook. Who says no? Nobody. Maybe Dalvin Cook. Maybe Dalvin Cook says no. All right, guys, we're gonna log off now. So we're in Studio F here in Chat Sports, and our Eagles guy comes in and says, Studio F for Foles? It's a low blow. Low shot from my man Chase Sr. right there. Hashtag Vikings. As a non-Vikings fan, actually, we'll get to that. We'll get to that in today's show. Thank you guys so much getting those questions in there. One final Minnesota Vikings mailbag. We do have a lot of questions. If you want to guarantee your question gets asked right away, super chat right there, just like Passmaster did earlier. But anyways, let's get into a Minnesota Vikings mailbag. Welcome to the Vikings Now. I am your host, Patrick Siepman. On today's show, we got a Minnesota Vikings mailbag where I answer your questions on the latest rumors, news, whatever they may be. This came from our live show that we do every other week on Wednesday at 3 o'clock. First question coming in here from Viking Nation, and it's a good one. Vikings trade 3 first-rounders for Joey Bosa. I love these types of questions because it's just like you're playing Madden and you're playing the GM, and you just kind of get to do whatever you want. 3 first-rounders for Joey Bosa. So let's think about this on both sides. Number one, for the Vikings, would they offer this? I think so. I mean, I think you would take 3 first-rounders for Bosa. I mean, it would – actually, now that I just said it out loud, probably not. Maybe 2 first-rounders. But the Chargers, I think they would do it. I think they would take 3 first-rounders for a guy like Joey Bosa. But could you imagine a Joey Bosa, Danielle Hunter combo for the next couple of years? That would be a lot of fun. But giving up first-round picks, I wouldn't want to do it. Anthony Sebring, $2 super chat. Thank you so much, Anthony. You're the man. He says, hashtag Vikings. If Adam gets cut, you think he will retire? That's a great question, Anthony, actually. I don't think so, only because I've been, obviously, whenever I listen to a Thielen interview over this past, kind of month or so, he seems like he's still got enough juice in the tank, and he kind of wants to keep going. And I think somebody asked him, it was about, the New England Patriots, because obviously it's so stereotypical. Every white receiver in the NFL gets connected to New England. So they asked him about the Patriots, and he kind of mentioned, he was like, I would love to play for a guy like Bill Belichick and play under, a different organization than the Vikes. But he obviously then followed that up with saying, I would love to finish my career with the Minnesota Vikings. So I'm going to say no. I don't think Adam Thielen will retire if he gets cut. Mateo saying, could you trade Thielen and Cook together for one better player? Mateo. I love the way you're thinking right now. You got 2 guys that might get cut. Could you trade them both for a better player? So let me think about teams that could need a weapon. The New York Giants, even though they do have Saquon Barkley, let's say they let Saquon walk, and the Giants hit you up and say Adam Thielen, Dalvin Cook, let's just say a guy like, obviously Dexter Lawrence, no, but let's just say Azeez Ojulari, a defensive lineman or something like that. Could we trade a Adam Thielen and Dalvin Cook trade for a guy like Azeez Ojulari or anybody else? Or we could send him to the Saints. Kamara is going to get locked up for the next, hopefully, 4 to 6 weeks only. Michael Thomas is most likely leaving. You could call a team like the Saints, too, who need a running back and a wide receiver 2 or 3. I don't hate that idea, Mateo. Susan B. saying, who is your top free agent target for the Vikings? So my top free agent target for the Vikings has to do with Brian Flores, and it's actually going to be Cam Sutton. Cam Sutton's the corner. He's been kind of the staple of the Pittsburgh Steelers defense for the past couple of seasons. In 2022, he had 15 pass breakups, almost a PBU a game, 3 interceptions, and 43 tackles. I think he would be perfect with this Brian Flores system, a corner that can play inside and out, man-to-man, zone, whatever it may be, a very versatile player, a very versatile person that fits very well with the Brian Flores system. He would be my top free agent of a guy that's realistic to bring in. Obviously, you got the big names like Daron Payne, but a realistic Vikings free agent option, and my top choice is Cameron Sutton. I want to ask you guys this. I'll make this a pinned comment actually on today's video. Name your top free agent target for the Minnesota Vikings. It could get wild. You could say Daron Payne, or you could go more, need and go a guy like Cam Sutton like I am. Make this a pinned comment, so if an ad break comes right now on YouTube, take advantage of it. Let it play. Answers today's pinned comment down below. Name your top free agent target for the Vikes. Next question, Anthony Sebring, another $2 super chat. My man Anthony, I appreciate it. It says, do you think the DC can do big in 1 year? Yes, I do. So the thing with Brian Flores that I love so much, and that's why I got so excited about this hire, is because Ed Donatel, he was soft zone coverage. Corners are playing 10 yards off. We're only sending 4 guys. And then you completely turn the page and you go to a guy like Brian Flores, who's get in your face, play press man, play a little more aggressive nature of football. And I've loved the way he's been kind of talking about how he's going to go about it, where he says, when you're talking about being aggressive, there's a quote he had. It was like, you got to be calculated too. It's the combination of being calculated and being aggressive. And I just love that. Brian Flores, his press conference, maybe want to run through a brick wall. I think he's going to do big things. However, I will say, if he does do big things, he will be gone after this season. I think he's going to be a head coach candidate next season. Past Master saying about, what about both of Miami Joneses that got injured, the DBs that will help us? So I'm sure you're talking about Byron Jones and Byron Jones and who's the other name? Oh, yeah, Brian and Brian Jones. Yes, the two Joneses from Miami. So Byron Jones, obviously, he started his career in Dallas. He actually went to UConn, funny enough, more of a basketball school, but he was produced out of there. But both those guys, really, really good years under Brian Flores. And that's why I think a lot of these former Dolphins corners, former Dolphins defenders keep getting connected to the Minnesota Vikings. If we're not talking corner, a guy like Kyle Van Noy, he was great with Brian Flores. But both those guys, super versatile, super kind of get in your face type of play man-to-man corners. I would love both those guys on the Vikings. Both of them a little more cooked, a little more out of their prime. But both those guys, I would love it. Sean Muster saying, should the Minnesota Vikings draft Zay Flowers? So Zay Flowers, he was really turning heads at the Senior Bowl, and he's been kind of getting some Antonio Brown comparisons from Brett Coleman. He dropped that whole comparison video comparing this man, Zay Flowers, to him. I mean, this year, 78 receptions, just over 1,000 yards, just under 14 yards a catch, and 12 touchdowns. And the thing is with Zay Flowers, man, if you turn on his tape, he jumps off the screen. I mean, he is literally one of those guys where you can't take your eyes off him. And the thing I love about talking about potential first-round talents, I'm going to want to see it when I'm just watching your highlights on YouTube. A guy like Zay Flowers, you see it. You see he's a first-round pick. And wouldn't he fit nicely in this wide receiver 2 spot, assuming the Vikings move off of Adam Thielen? I would love Zay Flowers. If it's him, Justin Jefferson, KJ Osborne, a great young group of receivers, give me Zay Flowers in this year's draft. He's there at 23 and the Vikings take him. I would be ecstatic. Now, if you guys want daily Minnesota Vikings YouTube videos, this is the best way to do it. You just hit that subscribe button. You just go down there. It's free. It kind of sends us a message as here at a company at Chat Sports. Oh, wow, Vikings channel's doing well. Let's get them more videos. It's easy. Help us out. It's quick. It's free. Just go down there. Hit that subscribe button. Viking Nation saying, I think Minnesota could bring back Jerick McKinnon and trade Dalvin Cook to Carolina. Another great question coming in from Viking Nation. I would love to bring back Jerick McKinnon. Jerick McKinnon, he was one of the first Vikings. Obviously, I'm only 23 years old, so that was probably when I was about freshman, sophomore year of high school, and the Vikings were making that run in 2017 when they inevitably lost to the Philadelphia Eagles in the NFC Championship game. I love Jerick McKinnon. He was still great this past year for the Chiefs. He's one of those guys where it seems like age or Father Time hasn't really tapped him on the shoulder yet. Jerick McKinnon, he's been fantastic. He's explosive. He runs with power. I love that side of it. Trading Dalvin Cook to Carolina, hey, if you could get a third for Dalvin Cook and Carolina calls you and offers that, you say yes immediately. Tommy Tips, next question, saying, any chance the Vikings can bring in OBJ this offseason? So OBJ, he was connected to the Vikings a little bit when he was kind of going on his tours, when he was trying to find a team for this upcoming year, but obviously injuries derailed that. But OBJ, he's got the connection with Kevin O'Connell. It's going to be an interesting decision to see where he ends up. But, I mean, hey, 2021 for the Los Angeles Rams, he was fantastic, man. I mean, that playoff run he had, over 100 yards in the NFC Championship game. And then he also had, I think it was like 50 yards and a touchdown in the limited reps that he had during the Super Bowl. OBJ, I would love to bring him into Minnesota. I think it would be a great piece next to Justin Jefferson. You got the LSU connection between those two. Jefferson, OBJ, both went to LSU. Obviously got other LSU guys like Pat Pete, Daniil Hunter, and all of them. But OBJ, that'll be fun. I mean, really, that'll be a fun pick. I don't know if OBJ would want to come settle down in Minnesota. I think that's a huge part of it. I think he wants to be in a bigger market, bigger city, and he did mention he wants to find a place to settle down with his family and kind of raise his kids. So OBJ, that'll be a fun choice. Would he be a really solid wide receiver too? Yes. But also it's going to come down to money. If OBJ, if he wants a longer year deal, if he wants a 3-year, $30 million deal, most teams are probably going to say no. But if it's a 2-year, $24 give him it all guaranteed. Convert some of it into a signing bonus where his cap hit isn't too much, and he's your wide receiver 2 for the next couple of years. I wouldn't really hate it. But thank you guys so much for watching today's video. If you guys made it to the end, you are a real one. It helps a lot out here when you guys watch all the way to the end. Thank you guys so much. Type real one down below if you guys did make it to the end of the video. I love seeing it. As Kirk Chains, actually, before we get on out here, another quick $5 super chat from my man. Thank you so much. Really do appreciate it. This came from our live show anyways this year. But thank you so much, Kirko. Kind of gets into the point of, do you love the Vikings? If so, spam Skull in the comments section. Thank you guys so much for making it to the end of today's video. See you guys next time. Peace. All right. If you guys love the Vikes, spam Skull in the comments. AFX saying trade 3 first-round picks to the Browns for Denzel's Ward. No, that's not going to happen. Thank you, Kirk Chains. Thank you, Anthony Sebring. Thank you, all the guys that have super chatted today. Really, really do appreciate it. Hell yeah. Anthony Sebring saying Skull. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today, just talking Vikes. We're going to be starting to do these every other Wednesday, and honestly, they're fun to do. So I really do appreciate you guys coming here, hanging out with me. Past Master saying grab Juju or Evans or Crowder. Out of those 3, give me Mike Evans. I mean, easily. Juju's going to demand like $18 million in free agency, and I would not come close to paying him that. AFX, no, not going to happen. He's going to. And I think he will because the wide receiver market blows this year. All right, thank you guys so much for hanging out with us today. It was an honor. It was a ton of fun. I will see you guys next Wednesday, 2 Wednesdays from now. See you guys next time. Skol Vikes. Peace.